I'm going to jump on to my slides in a second. We are going to do a little bit of interactive auditing. Actually, I'll put you in some breakout rooms into little audit teams for some desktop practice auditing. Obviously not getting to site, but some practice, just because you are doing those audits as your actual assignment. And so we'll do a little bit of practice in this final session. But let me share my screen. The content for this session is around the administration of road safety audits. So accreditation as auditors, legal liability for auditors or road authorities. And what I want to cover is knowing the requirements for different jurisdictions for accreditation, understanding the process for registering in Victoria, South Australia, Queensland, and New South Wales. I can talk about other jurisdictions if you're interested too, but obviously you're going to be most interested in New South Wales. So I'll definitely be doing that. And then we'll talk about some legal issues associated with auditing or procuring audits. And why don't we start there? And I welcome a bit of discussion. I do flag here that I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not here providing you legal advice. I'm providing you insights into issues in auditing across the jurisdictions. So this is applicable absolutely for New South Wales as well. And there's been some interesting studies done by the Centre for Road Safety actually around legal liability for a number of things associated with the management of the network from a road safety perspective. And I can share some insights on that. But very briefly here, as a road safety auditor, here are some of the things that could cause legal issues for yourself or the organisation you're working for as an auditor. First of all, and this is a fairly, I suppose, clear one, is if you are undertaking client-focused road safety audits. What does that mean? Well, imagine there's a new hardware chain that's entering into the Australian market, and they plan to build 150 big hardware warehouses, and they're all accessing onto the network. And they, the first one, the road authority says an audit must be done, and for them to get the audit, and they get you, and they say, hey, come on, now nothing that is going to cause any trouble for us. We don't want to spend any money. You look after us, we'll look after you, and if you entertain any of that sort of stuff, it's obviously going to have it's going to have potential legal ramifications. Now, we haven't. It's hard to gather evidence of that, but that's the idea behind audits. Inadequate brief. Now, you might be thinking, well, an auditor doesn't write the audit brief. But the idea here is that if you, as an auditor and audit team, you receive the request to do an audit and you haven't been given enough information to be able to do your job, and you don't sort of request it, that could be an issue. Now, certainly you'll often be requesting things that they say, well, we don't have that. And then you've got to make assumptions, and that's okay because you've done that. Misleading qualifications or experience, of course, that goes across any professional industry, doesn't it? We can't do that. You can't say you're a level 3 auditor if you're not on the register, and or you can't say I've got 25 years road and highway design experience if you don't. Then not following correct process, and correct process is an interesting one, because correct process is what you are engaged to do. Now, if the brief and the agreement is that you will undertake a road safety audit in accordance with the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6 and New South Wales guidance, then, and that's all it says, then you've got to do your daytime and your nighttime inspection or get some sort of exemption for the nighttime. You've got to visit the site and you've got to follow any quality management systems you have for your organisation, of course. If for some reason the client has said, we want you only to go out there during the day, I want you to use Austroads, but only go during the day and don't visit the site, you technically then, legally, you would be okay not to go to the site and not to go out at night. Now, you'd probably have a chat with your client and say, well, it's not really, road safety audit practice. Do you want to call it something else, or do you want to let me do that? But that's how it would play out. And then you're held to a reasonable assessment in terms of what you would produce. And reasonable is that term that gets played out in the legal framework. And would your peers have identified that issue, or how much detail have you gone into in the investigation of this issue? Well, it would, I suppose, come back to the reasonableness of, would another auditor have done 10 weeks worth of research on that particular issue? Well, no, but what would be reasonable? So there are sort of potential issues as auditors or being part of an audit team. As I say, the majority of this will fall back to the consultancy. The company will be the one that gets sued or in trouble, or the organisation you're working for. But it's the auditor's responsibility. In terms of procuring road safety audits, now, first of all, intentionally not providing information to an auditor that can undertake their, that would help them undertake their job and identify risk. That's certainly going to be a bad thing. Requesting recommendations if you're in a jurisdiction that has recommendations. Asking for specific recommendations or telling them not to put specific things in. And then a duty to consider the recommendations if they're provided. Accept, reject, defer. They're all legitimate and they're all fine. It's just about actually putting those down on paper. Any recommendations or even the risks that are identified, some means of prioritising them in what will be done and what will be held over for later. Audits are pretty good at helping with the prioritisation because they risk rate, and you can then prioritise based on the risk. But cost of rectification may come into play as well, or practicality of it. So you can see there why New South Wales has in the past not wanted recommendations, because they keep popping up as the legal problem areas for the customer or the road authority. And so that's a lot of the reason why they were not part of New South Wales at one point. And a reasonable process. There you go, that wonderful legal word, reasonable again. Is it a reasonable process that has the jurisdiction has gone through? The ones that I've seen in that reasonable process around Australia in legal cases that have been interesting is less around the individual audit process. It's more around the organisational ad hoc nature of auditing, where one division or even one team does audits on their designs, and they've got this process and everything gets audits, and another team doing very similar jobs are not undertaking audits and the reasoning could be just that the one team leader thinks audits are good and the other team leader's never heard of them, or whatever it is, the courts would frown on that. They say, well, no, what is the process for making that decision? So looks like the question here, road safety audit is undertaken and finished. There are certain corrective action, resulting, and funds are not available all the time.
I'm just thinking, this happens quite a bit over my time where the funds are not available, or someone's sat on it for a while. That's a different kettle of fish. And then a fatal accident occurs and you haven't actioned that corrective action. Are you liable, the client?
It's going to come down to, again, you would need to check with your lawyers, but it's going to come down to a couple of things. The first one is reasonableness in the time frame between receiving information and acting upon it. Okay. And that, again, will have to play out. If there are documented policies within Transport for New South Wales, for example, of acting on information that it comes in, then that's a pretty clear-cut one. If not, it plays out to what is reasonable, what are other jurisdictions with the same resources able to do. The next one will be relating to, once identified that funds are not available to rectify the issue in the way that you want, it doesn't negate the fact that it's an issue. So you would look for other risk mitigation measures, albeit that they may be temporary. Like, for example, a temporary speed limit reduction. If you've identified something, that might be it. A warning sign in the interim can even be a way to lessen that risk, albeit a small lessening of the risk for the road user. But those sort of things are showing that you've put risk mitigation measures in place. If you ramp it up to something that's a bit more sort of obvious, potentially, if you have an old timber bridge and there's a bridge inspection that's done on it, and it currently has, that road has B doubles on it, and the report comes back and says nothing over 10 tons on should be going over this bridge, there's a chance it'll collapse. You don't have money to replace the whole bridge and build a new bridge alignment already, but we all know that you're going to do stuff to lessen the risk there. You're going to load and limit the bridge. You're going to divert vehicles around in alternate ways. So you can sort of think of it in that same way. The next one, is around there that's come in. If you reject a finding, and it's absolutely legitimate to do that. It's just about backing that up with some evidence. Rejecting it without evidence and a good solid base is not a good thing. That would cause trouble, but if you've got a good solid base behind it, you should be fine. Okay. Good questions. I'm going to talk you through road safety audit accreditation. I'm going to jump to the New South Wales register after I just talk you through some other jurisdictions and what they do. And why do I do that? Because you're eligible, assuming you pass this course, you're eligible to get onto the register in Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, and New South Wales. Western Australia is like a different country when it comes to auditor accreditation, and New Zealand doesn't have any register. They just say if you've passed a course that we recognise and have that certificate, it's fine. So this course. So I've got a little table here, and there is a fact sheet that sort of goes with this. It might be easier for me to talk about it. I'll start with Victoria, because you can jump on the Victorian one if you want. Victoria, Queensland, South Australia have road safety auditors and senior road safety auditors. They're the only two levels. And to become a road safety auditor, you need to do this course or an equivalent approved course. And you need to generally be working in the field of road safety engineering, road design, traffic management, or road user behavior or something like that. You're all definitely in. And that's it to become a road safety auditor. To progress up to senior auditor status, you need to do this course or equivalent. You need 5 years experience, as in 5 years professional experience, and you need to undertake 5 road safety audits with a senior road safety auditor. Then I'm just going to mute somebody there. In Victoria, it's this website, vrsa.com.au, and that simply takes you to a website which has a disclaimer. It's the first thing you see. It says, hey, there's a big list of road safety auditors here. We can't guarantee any are any good. All we can guarantee you is they've passed a course and that they have, the requirements that we've set. Yeah, okay. Then you're going to register as an auditor, register as a road safety auditor, unless you've done lots of audits at, maybe you're doing this as a refresher course, but you click on that, fill out your details. You can hide it from the public if you don't want the public to see. And you upload your certificate and it'll be processed. Once you're in, you can sort of look at logging in and updating things. But the public can go to this as well. Everybody can go to it. They can search for an auditor. They can search by name, by organization, by area of expertise, which you take with a grain of salt because it's self-populated. And then a big list comes up. And so if I click on myself here, you get some information about senior auditor, active. So it might be just pending if you've uploaded stuff or you have just registered and they're processing it, contact details, some relevant professional experience, which again, you can hide all this. That's just to show you're actually working in the industry. Expertise. Yeah, I've done a lot of audits in my time. I don't do worksite traffic management. I've done worksite traffic management audits. Certainly have done a handful of those in my time. It's not my area of expertise. I don't pick that one, but and then areas that you're happy to work in, they're Victorian areas, and just a little bit of info about past audits that you've logged in the system, just to show that you've done so, where it was, what your role was, when it was, who the client was, and what type of audit was it. Stage 1 being like a feasibility style audit, if it sometimes has a specific, this was a bike path out in a new bike path they were considering, and your certificate. So that's Victoria, and you can register yourself, be a Victorian registered road safety auditor. South Australia is the same, except for a little bit more. You download a Word form, fill it out, email it in, wait a while until they update their PDF, and then you'll be added onto it. But again, the same thing, road safety auditor and senior auditor. Queensland government, again, you can do this. It's a bit the same. Download the form, fill out the form, send it in. They'll update and add you to the list, and they've got road safety auditors and then senior auditors underneath. There's the South Australian one where you download their their register of auditors. Now, I was going to show you New South Wales. I thought I'd do that live because that's easier. Here we go. So I'm sure some of you know this or have seen it or used it. But this is at roadsafetyregister.com.au, and I'm not sure exactly who looks after it, but I know that Centre for Road Safety pays for it. And this is where you can register, a bit the same. You can, I'm a business looking for an auditor. I'm an auditor. So we can go to search, and then, is it going to go anywhere? Yeah, there it is. So again, a bit like the Victorian one, you can search by the auditor's name or organisation. Now, of course, New South Wales has levels of auditors. Level 1, an entry-level auditor, a senior auditor, and then this one that's a lead auditor. Now, to become a lead auditor in New South Wales, you have to do a lead auditor's course as well. So you've got to done this course or equivalent, and then get some experience, and then you go up to that lead auditor status. You can search by a whole lot of different categories. So let's see. Let's see what the public sees if I search for myself. There we go. So you can see the auditor, the organisation, the level. So level 3 being a lead auditor. Accreditation expiry, years of relevant professional experience. All right. A little bit more experience in that, but that's all right. That'll do. We're available to work, courses, and they don't show all the audits. I think some more recent ones. So that's what you see there. There's good frequently asked questions, eligibility criteria, which is often a good one, and some good information there. What is a level 1 auditor? So you have to have done the course and successfully completed that and undertaken 1 road safety audit. And then you graduate up to senior, 3 road safety audits in the past 3 years, and at least 5 years of experience. And then you go up to this, you have to completed a lead course, 7 years demonstrated experience, 3 pre-construction phase audits, and 3 construction phase audits. So pre-construction being any of the design phases, and then post-construction, or during construction or post-construction. They've got some further definitions in there if you want to look into it. So that's what you would do to get on that register. And looks like we might have questions. So Nicole's saying, you've completed the course before, but you're not in here. So you have to, your accreditation would have lapsed, and they would have, you will probably be in their system in the background, but they're certainly not going to come up. Okay, or you're in the system, but no audits are marked here. Yeah, so you can go in, log in, probably forgotten your password, as I do every time, and get your new password, log in, add your audits as you go, and it'll reactivate you. there any other questions? How do you get previous audits to be listed again? They'll be in the, if you log them into the system, they will have a record of those. I don't think they display them if they're old though. I think they just display them in your update requirement period. So if you're a level 3 auditor or something, they ask you to, every year you've got to show you've done some audits, or it's every 2 years or something like that. No, I think it's every year. There's an automated email, you've got to upload information about audits, and that's what I think they display. Victoria, just everything, all the way back from horse and cart day audits. No, they weren't audits back then, but for as long back as you want, they'll display them. Okay. Good. All right. Well, because this is a short session, what I'm going to do is get you to do a little exercise. We're not really going to have a break because hopefully we'll be done. I mean, we've only got an hour and a half booked, and we may be done a little bit earlier than that. But I'm going to get you to do a bit of practice auditing, and then that will help you as you write up your final assignment, your audit. I should say also that thank you to everybody for the wonderful assignments that have been put in, the research assignments. Very much enjoyed the ones that were in there. I think there might be a couple of late ones that I'll mark. I'll show you shortly. You can view those, and I'll also be emailing out some info about prize winners on those. But really, really great effort. I enjoyed it. Well done. What we're going to do now is I'll just share my other screen, and so in the learning management system, just a few things. You can see here research assignments. You click on that, so you can see other people's research assignments and have a look at those if you want, because there's some good topics there, and people have done really well in putting those together. I'll add some others to those as they come in. If we go down to today, there's this Montrose roundabout functional design, and we're going to use that for the session. I will put this into the chat, so you don't need to log into the system if you're not in there, but you can download it if you want. So what we're going to do is give you this design, and I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. So little groups, and they'll be your audit teams for this little mock desktop-y training exercise audit. And you're going to look at this design as a group and have a bit of a chat about what road safety issues can you identify when this is built. So the black lines on this are what they are planning to build. It's planning to become a signalized intersection. The green lines, that's what's there at the moment. It's a roundabout. They're planning to signalize this whole intersection. So you're going to look at that and you're going to think, okay, and you're going to imagine they've now built this. What crashes are we expecting could happen? Now, because we can't get out onto the site and the like, we've done something to help us a little bit, because of course in an audit you'd want to go to the existing site, the roundabout, have a look and imagine this new facility and look, well, what's the current land use, where are the pedestrians crossing, what kind of road users are going through here, where are the services, all those questions. So what we've done is we've created this little sheet, which has a picture of a camera at these different locations. And if you wanted to look at a specific location. So imagine you wanted to look at here. You can click on that and we'll see how this goes. And it gives me an ad. Yep. Okay. So after any ads, we're not sponsored by bottled water for the road safety audit course. That is for sure. Here we go. So you'll get then dropped at this point. Now this is 360-degree footage. So you can have a look around. You go, okay, so we've got a pit there. Okay, there's a bus stop there. That's interesting. Let's have a look. Okay, shops, a little walkway through. Interesting. Okay. You look up in the sky if you want. Okay, the roundabout's down there. That's interesting. Good to know. So this will help you get a bit of insight about the site. Okay. So then you'd be saying, okay, so that camera was from down here, sheet 17. Let's go down to sheet 17. Okay, that was here. We were standing somewhere around here. That's that bus stop we were looking at. Okay, they're retaining that there, but they're changing some other things. How does that impact on this? So that's what I want you to be thinking about. Now, because of our time constraints, I'm gonna ask you as a team, audit team, to only find one issue. But I want that issue to be actually written out, or somebody's going to talk to the issue, but I want it in that format that I've been banging on about. Describe your issue. Tell us the crash, specify the crash that could happen. Tell us any factors, any risk factors, and then any standards or guidelines that are applicable. If you know them, of course, you don't have time to go and delve into looking at Austrads, what does Austrad suggest here, and those sorts of things for this practice, but maybe you'll know something off the top of your head. So let me give an example, and this, you won't be able to use this one, and this one's not actually sort of correct, or we don't have enough information on it, but I'll give you an example. Okay, maybe we're worried as an audit team about vehicles coming up here, not being able to see the signals. So we say, we go, oh, that's the issue. And then you might debate it as a team. Is that an issue? Is it not? What are the, okay, let's use that one. And then somebody, when we come back together as a group, will do something like say, okay, the issue we identified was vehicles approaching from the west will not be able to see the traffic signals due to obstructions from trees and the potential for dynamic visual obstruction of them with other large vehicles or vehicles in the adjacent lanes. This may cause a vehicle to miss the signals, overshoot, and have a side impact crash with a vehicle or strike a pedestrian at the crossing. The risk is higher during the day because the signals will be less visible, and the risk is exacerbated by the horizontal geometry on the approach. The Australia's Guide to Traffic Management, part whatever, says that for multi-lane roads, you need 3 aspects and mast arms, whereas this design only has 2 aspects and no mast arms. The risk rating for this, we think crashes will be happen maybe once every 5 years associated with this, but they will be serious and the resulting risk is high. And we recommend, and I'm going to get you to do recommendations again, even though your current jurisdiction doesn't require that. We recommend that mast arms be added and a third signal pedestal be added. And this is a supporting treatment. I completely made that up, by the way, so that's not an actual issue. So you won't use that, but I was just using that as an example of what I want you to be presenting back when you get the chance. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing. I'll take any clarification questions as I put the designs into the chat. So you've got them, and I see a question already. So the question Andy's putting there, back on accreditation. You must be accredited to do road safety audits in the jurisdiction that audit is happening. That makes sense. So you want to do an audit in Queensland, you've got to be a Queensland registered accredited road safety auditor. You want to do one in New South Wales, same, you'll be New South Wales accredited. You want to do one in Northern Territory, well, they'll take anybody's register. They don't build their own. They just said, yep, anybody, any other jurisdiction will do. As Tasmania said, we'll just use Victoria's. How many am I accredited in? I'm accredited in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia. Not Western Australia anymore. I was. I have not met their intense continuing professional development requirements. And so they're so different to everybody else in this sense. Is their course is just mammoth. So there's that. And I did it not because I really want to be doing audits over there out of interest. And then you get assigned a mentor, and you work with the mentor for a year doing audits and all these other requirements. Then you've got this continuing professional development requirements, which require you to do other courses over a period of time. The result was I was on their register for a while, and I'd get asked to go over to Perth to lead an audit of like a roundabout in the local street. Why? Because they couldn't get an auditor in Western Australia, and they and the auditors in Western Australia were saying, yeah, I can do it in a month, and my quote is $25,000 for this single. And so it's just insane. And the reason for it is they've gone, in my opinion, far too far in terms of narrowing down their audit set in this demand for absolute, expertise. Whereas Victoria is completely the other way, where Victoria just lets anybody on and says, no, we want lots of auditors out there. We want audits to be done on all sorts of projects all the time. And as a result, we will get, good road safety benefit. Yes, we recognize that some aren't going to be as good as others, but they'll be low cost, they'll be done quickly, and there'll be lots of them available. So where do you draw the line? I mean, I think somewhere in between is probably right. New South Wales, not bad on that sense, but there's a big Austroads project trying to harmonise it, and it's just going to be like harmonisation is so challenging. And when you've got this, like Western Australia is just going to go, no, we're not going to make it easier to be an auditor, and Victoria is going to go, well, we're not going to make it so everything costs a heap to audit. So what constitutes an expert witness? Well, whoever the lawyers are deciding to pay based on their resume and their experience. So it doesn't.
If you're in traffic, Ken, is it? I was called once. Is it based on the years of experience, or
not necessarily?
They can just subpoena someone in
well, being subpoenaed and being an expert witness are slightly different.
Correct,
An
yeah.
expert witness is, sort of just appointed as they're an expert in this field, and they should provide an opinion on the specifics of the case that they have expertise on for, the consideration of the courts. And while you are appointed as an expert witness by one party, you should be acting independently. You're not looking for ways to make it work for them. You just say it as it is. And then you end up with two expert witnesses, one engaged by each party, and they put forward their thoughts, and you hope that they match up because they're meant to both be experts in the field, and a lot of the time they do, and then there's issues that they don't, and then there's cross-examination and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, being subpoenaed is that you've got something to do with that particular decision that has been made or road that's been built, or like, and so they're saying, right, you in the seat, we want to know, tell us about this. Why did this happen? What's this? Tell us the process for that, and those sort of things. Yeah, okay. So did I upload okay, I've got the functional designs in there. I'm going to put the 360-degree. So what you're going to have is only about 15 minutes as a little group to find one issue. So I don't think you'll have trouble finding one issue, but I'll be jumping into your rooms, and if you're really struggling, I'll give you a hint, but I'm pretty sure you'll be right to find something that you can stand with. And then talking through, okay, well, how are we going to talk about this issue? What do we think the crash is that could happen? Any risk factors? Anybody know any standards or guidelines on it? And you might say, no, I don't know. I think it's something in somewhere. Don't worry about that too much for this exercise. How are we going to risk rate it? And there'll be debate about that for sure. And what is our recommendation? And then have a go at categorizing that recommendation or your recommendations into primary or supporting. And that may be a bit of a challenge. Does anybody have any questions on the clarification of the task? Okay. I'm going to assign you randomly into breakout rooms and leave you to it. The design is in the chat and the videos, if you want to go into those as well. And I will pop into each one at some point and say hi. But here we go. Okay. Sorry to have dragged you away from your conversations there. You're all doing really well. But just to keep us moving along to time, we pulled you all back into the room together. As I jumped in and eavesdropped to the conversations, I was liking what I was hearing. Lots of good debate about issues and risk ratings and recommendations and categorizing. So what we'll do, I'll share my screen. I'll pop the design up just so we can talk to it. And I might as well just go in the order of the room. So room 1, which had Nicole and Dan and others in there. So somebody like to talk to one issue?
Yeah, I would do that. So we highlighted the issue at the southern leg on at the southern side where the shops are there. Yeah. So that parking is quite risky because we saw in the video camera there, the cars are reversing out into the traffic. And also right now at the existing conditions, cars are taking a right to get into that parking spot. And even, yeah, that's right. And even they are performing the U-turn movements right now. So
Yep.
by extending this median, they have tried to stop those moments, like people taking right into the parking spot and performing the U-turn. But still there is a chance that people driving straight on Mount Dandenong Tourist Road can still take a left to park there. So instead, it would have been better if they could have extended the median and kept it one way entering from Devonish Avenue and then utilizing those parking spots.
Okay.
So like when we looked at the video and we're worried about cars reversing from those parking spots and actually reversing into the travel lane, we watched the video as a car did pretty much exactly that.
Yep. Good
Well,
work.
it was still straight angled when it got to the travel lane and then just sat there and waited for a couple of cars, then reversed into the travel lane.
Right.
Yeah, and that'd be even worse if there's a bus parked at the bus stop there.
Oh, 100%.
And then as your people going north on Mount Dandenong Road wanting to turn into park, you've got people in that other sort of slip lane resident, the other parking there. There's a hold line there. So sort of them turning left across that traffic coming out and trying to turn right. Plus you've got a bus there, potentially buses there at sometimes blocking sight lines. It's just a lot going on.
There is. Well done. So break it down a little bit for me in our audit recipe or our audit formula. Your issue is associated with the parking. I think you've described that, people exiting the parking, that's the concern. What's the crash? What's the crash?
We think it was rear end from cars backing out and cars coming up and rear ending those or side swiping them, however they perform that movement. And then you got sort of
side swipe crashes as well if people go to avoid them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I guess the contributing factors to that are the location of the bus stop there and making that situation worse when there is a bus stop there. Just also too, you've got the movement of pedestrians and whatnot there as well to even add further complication to it. And then obviously that's going to be even worse in low light and wet conditions as well.
Yeah. Good.
And with traffic signals coming up, especially at night, if people are looking at the traffic signals ahead and realizing they're there, they won't be paying attention to what's happening here on their way to the traffic signals.
Good. Okay. We won't go into standards and guidelines because that might be a bit hard. I'm not sure there is anything that quite deals with.
We definitely didn't get into that either.
No, there might be something associated with proximity of parking to travel lanes and something somewhere, but I'm not immediately aware of it. Okay, that's really good. How did you risk rate that?
We didn't. We saw a notification that we're coming back in here and panicked.
Sorry, time goes quick, doesn't it? So just factoring in the severity of the crashes you talked about would be on the more minor end because they're rear ends and side swipes. The chance probably up a bit with those things that you mentioned. I think the turbulence there with coming in and going across, and bus, I think that those are good. So you might be in the medium ranges there. And then recommendations, did you get to discuss those, or you just found your issue and were really happy with clarifying
They
it?
could extend the median past the bus stop and make that like, it looks like there physically is room for people to reverse out in that area.
Oh, yeah.
If the median was to be extended along the lane line.
This one, this separated thing. Yeah.
Yeah, to allow, obviously you've got to let people out of the car park. If it's one way at the moment, you could potentially have just this one single entry point at the end of that back into the travel lane, or make them all come back down the other end if there was room for that, but extend the median.
Possibly you could lower the speed limit in relation to where the car park is, because it's a 70-kilometre road. So if you've got cars
sorry, I
coming
just
from
checked. That one was 60. The other one was.
Oh, that one's 60, was it? Yeah.
Still,
the other one's 70. Yeah. But you do have cars coming from stationary into like there's a reasonable volume of traffic going through.
It should be just one exit point.
Yeah. So, but I think
that
that shows that there's multiple ways that it could be, the risk could be lessened, and you do a bit of pondering as an auditor. And do you give them a few options, or do you just land on one that you think is best? And but yeah, you've done well there. You've identified something. I love the fact that you've jumped in. You've seen some stuff in the video, which is kind of like your site visit, and you'd see these things. I think really good one was identifying that bus stop, blocking visibility, and creating issues during sometimes that that's nice thinking. So yeah, well done. Let's go to room 2, which was Bridget and Emma. And did you find the same issue, or did you find something else?
I'll jump in. We found something else.
Oh, okay.
So no, we're in the same area.
Oh,
but we had an issue with the location of the on-road bus stop.
This one or this one?
No, that one. It just being at the start of the taper for the left turn, just acknowledging that a bus pulling in there, someone might interpret that as a bus continuing on to turn left, which could increase, I guess, rear end style crashes. We thought that, given it's got its own dedicated left turn lane, that would increase the likelihood of people using that left turn lane, so it'd be popular. And the fact that the bus was located across the road from the shops would also probably increase the frequency of a bus stopping. However, it did seem quite lower speed, noting that we're in the 70 zone, but we're coming into intersections and things like that. So we didn't think the severity of any crashes would be major, probably more minor in nature. And also lining back to those just more rear end style crashes. And I think we gave it a possible and a minor, and came out with a medium risk rating.
Yep. Did you have any recommendations? We didn't get to that.
To relocate the bus stop to an alternate location, such as into the adjacent car park or further south, like away from the turn lane, as a primary treatment. And we had a secondary treatment, as you could paint it out, I guess, and clearly define what's bus stop and what's turn lane. But that's more of a secondary or supporting treatment.
Okay, well, so I liked your description there, and you sort of clearly said what the issue was, and then you actually specified the crash with the hitting the back of the bus, rear end style crashes and the like, and maybe side swipes. Avoiding it last minute. So that was all very good. I like your risk factors as well. Really nicely thought through and making good conclusions there, that the left turn indicates there will be quite a few, the dedicated left turn, that there'll be quite a few left turners, and amount of bus stopping, increasing risk. So they're really nice ways to do that. I think your risk rating was reasonable too. There is no right and wrong with risk rating, but it does sound quite logical. I like to do a little thing to do a sanity check on risk rating. And it goes along the lines of, based on the risk rating, how many deaths and serious injuries or crashes would I expect at that location because of that issue over the next 5 years? And you can kind of do that. If I jump into actually this, I think will give us the risk score. So if you use the risk matrix here, which is what the Austroads risk matrix, you can sort of come up with, if you've said something is likely and fatal, okay, you're saying that at least, so there'll be one death per year at that location because of that issue that's deficient, right? So in 5 years' time, you come back, and because they haven't done something or they've done something in a particular way, there'll be 5 crashes of that type that kill people. Now, you all probably have a good feel for how much death and serious injury we get, and cumulatively it's a lot. But if you look at that would under those scenarios, that would be a horrifically bad site. It'd be up in your top of all of New South Wales. So I like the way you risk rated that. It was more sort of reasonable, and it checks out as you go that back direction. So really well done there. Did I share my screen then or not? I must have, yeah.
Yep.
Good. Okay. So well done to that group. Good finding. The only thing I would say is that this primary and supporting is a little bit of a tricky one. I kind of wish Austroads had never gone down this track. It's probably not relevant for New South Wales without recommendations, but technically moving the bus stop is a supporting treatment, not a primary treatment, because there can still be rear end crashes and sideswipe crashes. It's just in a different location or with a different mechanism. But yeah, I mean, we're getting a bit pedantic there. So I think you've done well overall to pick all of that up. Let's go to our last one. I think we had Blair and Trish and others in that group. Did you have something different, or were you in this same area?
No,
We didn't really have anyone that wanted to talk in our group, so
we got
Isn't that
something
right,
very
Andy?
unique. We got something very unique, Ken. You got to go off
Yeah.
the page, mate.
Okay, what do you got, Andy?
We got the dual right turn on the main drag
Yep.
as the identified risk.
Yep.
Over here, over here. Can you see my cursor? Probably
No.
not.
I know what you're talking about, though. There's a dual right
Okay.
turn here. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah, I can see a big cursor, all right. Yep.
Yep.
So we've identified the risk, that as a risk, because it lacks delineation or guidance for the road user, especially if you've got a heavy vehicle and a light vehicle side by side.
Okay.
Now, just going through the steps, the type of crash that we could get is a heavy vehicle and a light vehicle crash due to the lack of delineation. And we also mentioned that you could potentially get a pedestrian crash on the median nose straight across the right, yeah, at there. Yeah,
This one,
spot
if
on,
a
right
large
there.
vehicle's going out there.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and it probably squashed me. Yeah, that's it. The risk rating for both, we think it's likely for both that it could happen. The severity, we said a side swipe would be moderate, but the pedestrian issue could be severe. And on the recommendation side, we recommend that the sweep pass be checked and verified. Checking a light and a heavy vehicle in those turn lanes as a standard. And another standard is when you have a dual right turn, you need a turn line.
Yep.
Now, whether it's supporting, yeah, definitely, that's it.
Okay.
I think anybody else want to add in the team, add something else?
Yep. Anybody want to add something?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. Well, you've done well there. You've found an issue, and it's an interesting one. And I'm glad it sort of came up because you certainly didn't have enough information to really, understand whether that is an issue or is not, because you didn't get the swept pass. But I like the fact that you sort of framed it in the way of your recommendation was to do the swept path analysis and adjust accordingly. So if you find yourself in those cases with audits where you're not given the information, assume the worst. Okay, put it back to them to prove, or to themselves and others, that they've addressed this. And certainly, I mean, exactly, yeah, from your eye, you're concerned by that, and that's fine, and that's absolutely acceptable for an auditor. And sometimes you'll say, can you have this, can I have the swept paths? And they say, we haven't done them. You go, okay, well, I'm going to make a mention of that and exactly how you did it. So I like that. It's a good finding. And I like the fact that you thought about multiple risks of that with the pedestrian and the side swipe, and it linked well. Certainly, if you did have more detailed information, you'd be able to link that to parts of lots of documented stuff around separation and width and those sort of things in the Austroads guides. So that was good. Your recommendations, yeah, to do that swept path is good, and adjust accordingly, I think is good. And you wouldn't even bother putting primary or supporting to that, because you don't really actually know what would happen, and those things are for the physical infrastructure changes.
I was going to ask you whether would the turn line be a supporting, Ken, or
supporting? Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Turn line would be supporting. The only way you could get a primary out of that, and I should say, you don't need to have primary treatments. It's not a mandatory. The only way you could do that would be like some physical separated turn facilities, which would be weird, and I don't even know how you do that. But
what about just deleting the turn, or is that counted as supporting?
Yeah, no, that would be primary. Well done. Yeah. So if you said no, there'll be no turn, no right turn. I suppose you'd need to make a little judgment on whether you think people are still just going to turn right from the through lane. But that's good. Yeah, well done. You can have a prize for that.
Thanks, Gavin.
Good beauty.
Okay, thank you. That gives me really good confidence with the group. I like to do this little, exercise. But yeah, the two reasons. One being, this is how you're going to have to present your assignment, but in written form. Nicely clarify that issue. Talk about the crash specifically. Any risk factors, any standards or guidelines, if you can find them that are applicable. Risk rate it. Recommendation or recommendations, and some categorizing of those, have a go at categorizing them. So you did really well there. That's a real design done by one of the multinational design consultants, good designers. They're dealing with constraints, as we all do when we're working on these. They're trying to adjust things. But you can see that as an auditor, there are definitely things that you can be picking up and contributing with. I mean, other issues, just off the top of my head here, that you can, you could have been picking up. We've got the slip lanes with the pedestrian crossings, which are going to cause issues not raised. So vehicles will be going through fast. This angle is is not good. So that shallow angle entry is going to cause trouble. The bus stop at that location close to that, drivers will be looking out this way, coming around. You'll have bus issues potentially there. You've got just a bit of a mess of an entry here with a lane dropping off and bus trying to enter and vehicles coming in and out here. You got big pedestrian desire lines down here from the shops over to bus stops, and there is an existing there's an existing pedestrian crossing facility which is going to be removed. So you're asking them to walk all the way up here to cross to come back here. They're not going to do that. There's sightline deficiency, a dynamic visual obstruction again with bus stops and property accesses in and out. There's turning, I think it's up here, turning issues. So we've got to keep clear, turning over 1, 2, 3 lanes of 70 km/h traffic. So, you know, and these are just a few I'm just picking up briefly. But a lot of these, the designers have probably considered, but we have to bring them up as auditors and help them with a bit of risk rating and a bit of detailed thinking of it. Some of them they may have just missed in their design.
What was hard with this, Ken, like we're just seeing a 2-dimensional plan, not 3-dimensional, unless you went back to the roundabout to get a feel of what the grades are. So
yeah, and even the videos, like it's kind of, you know, it's good. You get a bit of, but it's nothing like being out there on site. Like you can't replace that. So we just do this for a bit of an exercise for give us something to look at. Okay. Well, we've just only got 5 minutes left in what we allocated. And so I just want to show you how to finish off the course. So you need to make sure you've done all the quizzes and you've done a lot of them. It uploaded your assignment in research topic 1, which most of you have done. Then you've got your big assignment, which you're hopefully doing, and you upload that. And then all you have to do is provide, there's only 3 course feedback questions or something. It's very quick. And then once all of that is complete and you've got your mark and it's over 80% for your audit, your certificate will release and you can download it. And once that happens, we get a notification and then they pop in the post a hard copy of the certificate and any prizes you picked up along the way. So I think that's that. There's some reference documents and things in there if you want to look at those. But does anybody have any final questions before I sort of wrap up at the end?
So when we get our certificate, Ken, that we can be part of an audit team.
That's right.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
That's correct. Yep. Well, you want to register on the New South Wales register.
Okay,
right?
so we have to register.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have clarified that. Yeah, whatever jurisdiction that audit is you're doing, and probably it's New South Wales, register on that when you get your certificate.
And that's valid for what? How many years?
The certificate?
Yeah.
It actually doesn't expire.
It doesn't expire. So
at the moment, they may change that.
but you've got to do an audit.
You've got to do an
audit. So many audits in the 3-year period or something.
You've just got to do one audit to get in there. I think there's potential to use the one that you're doing as part of the assignment. You probably need to flesh it out further. Or hopefully you won't find it too hard to be part of an audit team with the audits that are happening. One little tip being, working for Transport for New South Wales is that if you ask around, especially to your design areas and other areas, say, if you've got any jobs that you're getting audits done on, can I join the audit team? So they might get a consultant to do the audit and you ask to be part of the audit team, as long as you're independent from it. So you're not, in that, you're not one of the project manager or the designer or in the design team or anything like that. The consultant will no doubt let you be part of the audit team and there you go. And you can start to gather experience like that. Okay. Well, in our last minute, I just want to say thank you to all of you. It's incredibly busy time, and you've taken time out to have a look into road safety auditing, to gain some new skills. And I think it's really important that we do that. And with that sort of road safety auditor certification comes that extra bit of responsibility. You're all passionate about road safety before, but we really want to be those champions for road safety in the infrastructure that's there and the designs that are coming out, really try to push for us to do things better, and we can really protect our community a bit as a result. So thank you for taking time out. You'll get a few emails, and feel free to share your certificate online if you want, and look forward to seeing you doing lots of audits in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken. Just on behalf of everyone here, just like to thank you for your great presentations and teaching methods. It's very engaging. Obviously, we keep coming back to you because you are good at it. So thanks for being flexible in our needs as well. And yeah, I hope everyone got something out of this. Going back to, getting involved in audits, we're going to work with the design team to get like a list of people and their skills, essentially like what levels they're up to, and try and get us engaged in that as well. So yeah, but by all means, even if your councils are doing road safety audits, ask if you can be on those projects. With all that grant funding, there's a lot of road safety audits going out there. So you just got to get the word out there. But yeah, thanks again, Ken, and everyone else that helped organise this training. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you very much. You're a fun group as well. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks all.
Thanks a lot. Bye.